Daredevil Born Again went through extensive reshoots in late 2023. Several brand new episodes were shot and added to the lineup. As well, additional scenes were filmed and added to different parts of the previously filmed episodes. Why was there a need for such a massive overhaul in the TV show? There are many rumors about the original filmed episodes, from it being a courtroom drama that barely featured Daredevil, to it being closer to a comedy than to an actual action drama. It is hard to say exactly what is true, but it would seem that we do have a pretty decent idea about what the show was beforehand and why the reshoots were necessary. But still, take everything with a pinch of salt, because ultimately it is all just rumor. According to Vincent D'Onofrio, we made it known that we were not happy, and the big bosses, especially Kevin Foggy, listened to us. Furthermore, D'Onofrio confirmed that stunt coordinator Philip J. Silveria stayed to design the fight choreography for the show's new action scenes. Daredevil's Born Again original showrunner Matt Corman, head writer Chris Ord, and a few directors left the show ahead of the overhaul. It is probably most likely that they were asked to leave the show instead of being fired. After taking a pause on the show due to the writing strikes, the Punisher showrunner was brought on to write and film 3 original episodes and to do extensive reshoots in the already filmed episodes. According to rumor, the new filmed episodes is what we currently have as episodes 7, 8, and 9, while the original filmed episodes are 1 through 6 with heavy reshoots throughout. Especially the first half of episode 1, which is entirely new, which means that there were about 5 or 6 already filmed episodes before the overhaul. So what exactly were the changes that were made to the show? Foggy Nelson and Karen Page were not in the original at all, so the entire opening of episode 1 with Bullseye is a complete reshoot. This is why Karen just dips after this, because then we go straight into the original filmed episodes. All of the scenes with Vanessa were reshot with the original Daredevil actress when asked to reprise her role after replacing Sandra Holt, who played the character before the overhaul. It would seem that all of her scenes stayed the same, but they were simply just reshot with the original actress. The original rumor is that Daredevil didn't suit up until around episode 4 or 5. If you take out the reshoots from episode 1, this would line up with the first fight against the character Muse. So this was probably the first time that we did see the suit in the original script. The quality of this fight scene is also a lot more polished and doesn't have that clunky CGI that was in the first episode. Normally reshoots have far less prep time, which does force a lot of work off onto the post-production team, thus why we end up with very spotty CGI during the Bullseye fight scene in episode 1. All of the scenes with the Punisher were included in the overhaul and the reshoots. It's unclear if the Punisher was going to show up in the original script, however, if he did, it probably would have been essentially a glorified cameo. All of the scenes with the character Muse was probably kept pretty much the same. This is because the courtroom drama aspect of the TV show leads directly into this storyline. However, this does explain why episode 7 just quickly kills off this character, because at this point the new showrunner is trying to get to the stuff that he has written into the TV show, and this is why episode 7 does feel a bit like Whiplash. On a side note, it has been confirmed by the showrunner that episode 5 with Interest is the only episode with 0 reshoots. So if you're trying to get a feel for how the original show was, this is probably a pretty good episode to base it off of. So going off all of that, what was the original show about? It would have started with Fisk coming back to New York, becoming mayor, and Matt Murdock having already given up the Daredevil persona before the show even starts. Wilson Fisk would have spent his time going to therapy with Vanessa, going through the similar motions of being the mayor that we see play out through episodes 2 through 6. Matt would have spent much more time in the courtroom trying to fight crime through the legal system. This would eventually go on until he finds that he has to put the suit back on in order to fight the villain Muse. The Muse storyline probably would have gone on for a few more episodes and ultimately would have been a main villain throughout the entire TV show. Daredevil would probably have faced up against Wilson Fisk at some point towards the end of the TV show. With how unhappy the actors of the show was, most of the show was probably in the courtroom and Wilson Fisk just playing mayor, which is fine for a few episodes. However, after 6 episodes of just that, the show would start to drag on a bit and not really actually be a Daredevil show. The reshoots brought characters into the show like Karen, Foggy, Bullseye, and the Punisher, and it also sidelined the character Muse, bringing his storyline to a quick end in episode 7, as well sidelining as much of the court stuff as possible. However, they couldn't simply just get rid of all of this because they couldn't reshoot every single episode. But they instead added new scenes throughout the previously filmed episodes to lead up to the new episodes at the end of the season. I personally think that the changes vastly improves the TV show, but either way, please give me your thoughts.